Thank you, President.
Questions. Question 1, Mr. Jeffrey LAM. Thank you, President. This year's policy address has proposed to accelerate the development of the Northern Metropolis. In this connection, will the government inform this Council? 1. As the government has indicated that it will adopt diversified development models, including large-scale land disposal, to promote market participation for expediting the development of the Northern Metropolis, and intends to roll out the Hon Stanley pilot area for large-scale land disposal in the fourth quarter of this year, as well as the pilot areas in Fanling North New Development Area and Santin Technopole next year. Of the specific tendering procedures for these 3 pilot areas, and when the relevant timetable will be announced. 2. As it has been reported that the government plans to adopt the 2-envelope approach in the tender exercises for certain land projects in the Northern Metropolis, so that factors such as the technical, economic, and tax contributions of the bidding enterprises can be considered at the same time during the assessment process. Of the specific scoring criteria for such tender exercises, including the respective weightings for the technical and price aspects. How the government will ensure the openness and transparency of the assessment process. And 3. Of the latest leasing position of the Hong Kong Park of the Hetal Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone in the Northern Metropolis, including the number of enterprises that have signed leases to date, and the expected date of commencement of operation of the first batch of tenants. The further supporting and preferential measures put in place by the authorities to attract high-end innovation and technology enterprises to the park. Thank you, President. Secretary for Development. President, as an important engine for the future development of Hong Kong and the transformation of industries, as well as a new platform for coordinated development with other cities in the Greater Bay Area, the Northern Metropolis will enhance Hong Kong's role as a key node connecting the mainland with the world. Given the sheer size of the area and the magnitude of the investments required, the government adopts innovative and diverse development approaches to leverage the resources from the government and the market to take forward the projects. Having consulted the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, my reply to various parts of the question is as follows. Part 1 of the question. Under the large-scale land disposal approach, the successful bidder will comprehensively develop sizable land parcels with commercial value, including residential and industrial sites, as well as public facility sites. The 3 pilot areas are located in Hon Stanley LI New Development Area, Fanling North New Development Area, and Santin Technopole, respectively. 22 submissions were received under the expression of interest exercise earlier, providing us with market views before we finalize the tender terms. We plan to start with the tendering of Hon Stanley pilot area by the end of this year. Tenders for the remaining 2 pilot areas will be put up progressively next year. We are now adjusting the relevant arrangements and requirements for the Hon Stanley pilot area in response to the market's views, including increasing the number of private residential sites from 2 to 3, and taking out a road so as to reduce the requirements for constructing public facilities and increase the project's financial viability. There are 3 enterprises and technology park sites within the pilot area. Originally, we required the successful tenderer to develop and operate one of them, while the remaining 2 should be returned to the government after the sites are formed. We are now considering providing an option in the tender so that a tenderer willing to participate in developing more industrial sites within the pilot area will be given more marks for such additional undertaking under the 2-envelope approach. Besides, we are considering allowing a longer building covenant and a more flexible land premium payment arrangement, including payments by installments. By the end of the year, when we put up the tender, we will announce the finalized arrangements. Part 2 of the question. We will employ flexible land grant arrangements in the Northern Metropolis, encouraging enterprises to set up businesses and invest in the area. If a tendering approach is adopted, depending on the circumstances, we may consider the premium offer only or to adopt a 2-envelope approach in tendering. The Sandy Ridge Data Facility Cluster site recently put up by the ITIB has adopted a 2-envelope approach. and we are inclined to adopt this approach for the Hon Kil pilot area as well. The adoption of a two-envelope approach in the tendering will consider the non-premium and premium proposals comprehensively, with the elements and weightings for assessment set to suit the individual circumstances. Taking the tendering of Sandy Ridge as an example, the weightings of non-premium and premium proposals are 70% and 30% respectively. The non-premium proposal will assess the bidder's contribution to Hong Kong in terms of investments and development of industries, such as the number of persons employed, the investment scale, and the period for commencement of operation. To ensure that the tendering work is open and transparent, the assessment criteria will be set out in the tender documents so that bidders may thoroughly understand the project's requirements and the marking scheme for non-premium proposal before preparing their tenders. We will set up a tender assessment panel comprising various bureaus and departments for assessing the tenders objectively and professionally in accordance with the stores and procurement regulations. The assessment results will be submitted to the Central Tender Board under the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau for approval. Part 3 of the question. The Hong Kong Park of the He-Tao Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone, or the Hong Kong Park, will be developed from west to east in 2 phases. The construction of the first 3 buildings in Phase 1 has been completed. The Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park Limited is pressing ahead with the relevant leasing work. Currently, in-depth discussion with around 30 enterprises, universities, and research organizations from the mainland, Hong Kong, and around the world regarding their plans to set foot in the Hong Kong Park has been carried out, among which a significant portion has signed tenancy agreements. The first batch of tenants covering life and health technology, microelectronics, new energy, artificial intelligence, and other pillar industries are expected to enter into operation officially before the end of this year. As the leasing work of the company is in progress, the number of enterprises and organizations signing tenancy agreements will increase. The HSITPL will provide supporting facilities such as talent accommodation, commercial and other ancillary facilities to support the operational need of enterprises and organizations in the Hong Kong Park. Meanwhile, the company is actively preparing the launch of Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation Technology Park Incubation Support Program within year 2025-6 to provide funding and support services to startup teams and enterprises so as to fully realize the notion of attracting talents with industries. Besides, the government is exploring, under the dedicated legislation for the Northern Metropolis being prepared, facilitating measures for flow of personnel, data, and materials for designated areas. Also, the Financial Secretary will lead the relevant policy bureaus in formulating packages of preferential policies covering land grants, land premiums, financial subsidies, or tax incentives. These strategic measures will help attract research and high-end manufacturing industries to establish presence in Hong Kong, including the He-Tao Hong Kong Park. Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey LAM. Thank you, President. The Secretary mentioned that the policy bureaus led by the Financial Secretary will formulate preferential policy packages, including land premiums, land grants, or tax incentives. I think the flexible arrangement will help attract businesses to set foot in the park. The question is, when will we learn about the details of the policy packages? Will there be a universal standard for these preferential policy packages? Or will there be tailor-made preferential packages for different companies, for example, locations of businesses, plot ratio, and other tax incentives? Which government official will answer the question? President, the so-called packages of preferential policies are a framework. Different policy bureaus will identify areas where facilitation measures can be provided and submit the proposal to the Financial Secretary. This framework will then help the Oasis and Invest Hong Kong to know what areas they can propose with the potential candidates. For example, in terms of land grants, these departments will tell the enterprises that the Hong Kong SAR government would consider offering land grants. Now, if the issue of land premium is included, then these departments will tell the candidates that usually we would charge the premium according to market value. However, we are willing to offer a certain percentage of concession This framework will facilitate negotiation between departments and the enterprises. However, concerning the final terms offered and also the extent of concession, these will be all tailor-made. We will not adopt a universal standard for all enterprises. I think that's the same for all our competitors, also trawling for enterprises. Now, the advantage of this package is that it will set a framework for negotiation. The finalized package will be approved by the Financial Secretary one by one, and then we will make them public. Dr. Loh Wai Kwok, President, developers are pleased to learn about the facilitation measures, including the pay for what you build approach and also the 1.5 level development concept. Now at present, there is a shortage of work in the construction industry. I hope this would be a boost of confidence for the construction industry and the engineering industry, and also speed up the development of the NM. My question is, how can we ensure that in terms of land resumption and brownfield site resumption, during this complicated process, how can we protect the livelihood of the construction and engineering industries while supporting the growth of the NM? Secretary for Development. Indeed, during the development of the Northern Metropolis, many brownfield site operators will be affected. Now, besides cash disbursements and compensation in cash, we will also provide space and locations for continuation of businesses for brownfield site operators. It will not be a plot of land of equal size, but there are other alternatives. For example, we have relaxed the restriction of uses for certain land. Brownfield site operators can apply for temporary use of sites to continue their business. They will be supported by the planning departments and other relevant departments. Now, after resumption of land in new development areas, work may not start immediately. There is a short span of buffer time. So if the brownfield site operators are inclined to do so, they will be allowed to continue their operation under a short-term tenancy at these locations. Now, earlier on, we have announced that for the 20-hectare large site in Hon Stanley LI, we will establish a statutory industry park run by the government to develop and manage the land. The site will be developed and delivered in phases. Site formation has been completed for certain lands. So we will release these sites for brownfield site operators. They can operate after some simple work. Now we will take care of the operational needs of brownfield site operators, and we have adjusted our land resumption timetable to minimize the impact on brownfield site operators. We want to align the timetable better for the sake of brownfield site operators. Mr. Edward Lau. Thank you, President. Concerning the idea of large-scale land disposal, I support the concept. Now, the Secretary told the media earlier on that parameters will be adjusted. For example, there will be more residential sites and the government will take over the development of infrastructure. Now, there are 22 expressions of interest, but to translate these into actual developments, we need to make the package more commercialized and attractive. Now, I thank the Secretary for accepting my suggestion to adopt a two-envelope approach and taking back the development of infrastructure. As a next step, maybe we can adjust the planning criteria for NM so that developers and businesses can proposed adjustments to the development parameters and land uses with the government. And also, there should be more flexible financial tools to finance development, for example, using financial tools available at other sites in the NM. If we can make the arrangements as flexible as possible, then those candidates which have expressed interest will take action in the next stage of the tendering process. So besides the two envelope approach and the government's led infrastructure projects, will there be other arrangements? Secretary, there will be 3 residential sites in the Hon Stanley LI NDA and also 3 industrial sites in the area. The development parameters for the private residential sites are based on the OZP. I think land developers would not try to adjust the parameters for private residential sites because they will maximize the usage of the sites. However, we need to maintain flexibility for industrial sites according to industry needs. Now, for the Hon Stanley LI NDA, we have not specified what kind of industries we are trying to attract for the industrial sites. The OZP allows for a wide range of industries to be established. Now, the name is an industrial park, so the usage of the site is very flexible. Now, in terms of the plot ratio, in the bidding process, we need to announce the maximum plot ratio so that all potential bidders can bid on the same premises. If we don't know what the maximum plot ratio is, the bidding process would be untransparent. Now, after entrance into the park, we will allow the bidder to develop their business in an orderly manner. Now, in terms of land premium arrangements, we are now actively considering the direction of payments by installments, so there will be flexibility. Mr. Sunny TAN. Thank you, President. In the policy address, there are some measures in relation to speeding up the development of the Northern Metropolis. The university town is an important component. Now, the first 3 batches of land will be Hon Stanley LI 2026, Gaotai 2028, and New Territories North 2030. Now, when the university's campuses are built and ready for enrollment, that will be many years away from now. Now, we need to strengthen the utilization of our vacant school premises to attract more world-famous schools to set up in Hong Kong. We need to ensure that there is a seamless entrance of schools in the Northern Metropolis University town. Secretary. President, under the Committee on Development of the Northern Metropolis led by the Chief Executive, there is a working group on planning and construction of the university town. The working group will be responsible for attracting different institutions to set foot in the university town. Now, if some candidates would like to start operating in other parts of Hong Kong at present, the working group will help these candidates to set foot in Hong Kong. If there are very promising targets that we want to attract, then we will propose to these candidates that there are some vacant sites in commercial buildings in developed areas for their use. Another measure is in relation to a new measures announced in the policy address. We will adopt the 1.5 level development approach for suitable sites. For example, industrial and commercial sites in the Northern Metropolis, we will not try to develop high density and permanent industry facilities right from the start. For suitable locations, we will allow interested parties to set foot in the Northern Metropolis with simple modification before establishing a permanent campus in the Northern Metropolis. Ms. Chen Yuming. Thank you, President. Now, earlier on, the government has announced the launch of the open tender for Sandy Ridge site under the two-envelope approach. Now, this will be the first batch of INT land available in the Northern Metropolis. I support the development of the Sandy Ridge facility, data facility cluster site. Now, this will test the interest of the market. Now, some media reports said that the industry is not very interested. Now, the Sandy Ridge site is different from the other three NDAs, and I would like to know more from the Secretary. What incentives will the government offer for the Sandy Ridge site to increase the attractiveness to the market? Secretary. Thank you, President. I also thank Ms. Chen Yuming for her support to the development of the Sandy Ridge site. Before launching the tender, we have conducted several market sounding exercises. For example, in the middle of 2024, we've conducted an EOI. In March 2023, we have conducted a market sounding exercise as well. So in terms of the design of the tendering arrangement under the two-envelope approach, as well as other enhancement measures in the tendering document, we have taken on board the views of the market and the industry. For example, earlier on, the TPB has extended the land boundary of Sandy Ridge according to our proposal. We want to develop Sandy Ridge into a site for advanced computing power in the area. Thank you.
Question 2. Mr. Sunny TAN. Thank you. President, the 2025 policy address announced an injection of $1.43 billion into the dedicated fund on branding, upgrading and domestic sales BUD fund, and an expansion of its geographical scope. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. As some members of the trade have relayed that the simplified application track under the BUD fund, EC fund, is very popular, whether the government will consider raising the funding ceiling for EC BUD fund project from $100,000 to $300,000. If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. 2. Whether the government will consider further expanding the application scope of the BUD fund to cover all markets outside Hong Kong, so as to align with the application scope of the SME Export Marketing Fund, which will be consolidated into the BUD fund next year, thereby better supporting the trade in developing domestic sales as well as traditional and emerging markets. If so, of the details, if not, reasons for that. And 3. Given that the government's operating account is expected to record surplus in the next financial year, whether the government will consider adjusting the matching ratio of the BUD fund to 1 to 1 of the total approved expenditure between the government and the enterprise, so as to assist the trade in upgrading the operations. If so, of the details, if not, reasons for that. Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. President, the dedicated fund on branding, upgrading and domestic sales BUD fund is one of the initiatives of the government in supporting small and medium enterprises, SMEs, aiming at assisting local enterprises in upgrading, transformation and development of diversified markets. From its inception in 2012 to September 2025, nearly 12,000 applications have been approved under the fund, involving a total funding of around $7.5 billion and benefiting around 7,800 enterprises. The government has since 2018 launched several rounds of enhancements to the fund, including the injection of a total of $7.7 billion, the expansion of the geographical scope, the phased increase of the cumulative funding ceiling per enterprise from $0.5 million to $7 million, and the launch of EasyBud and e-commerce easy, etc. The reply to 3 parts of the question is as follows. 1. EasyBud was launched in June 2023 to expedite the processing of applications involving designated measures with a funding amount of $100,000 or below. The application form, requirements for supporting documents, and vetting arrangements of EasyBud have been streamlined. As compared with the performance pledge of general applications of the BUD Fund, the processing time of an EasyBud application has also been significantly reduced by half to within 30 working days. As at the end of September this year, a total of 760 applications have been approved under EasyBud with an average funding amount of around $72,000. We believe that maintaining the ceiling of $100,000 for each application can meet the needs of most enterprises. Besides, to ensure the prudent use of public money, we need to act cautiously to strike a balance between the funding amount and the potential financial risk when determining the funding ceiling for each EasyBud application. We consider the current arrangement appropriate. In addition, to enable enterprises to receive funding support more expeditiously with a view to coping with the ever-changing economic environment, we've enhanced the arrangement of EasyBud since March this year to allow each enterprise to submit application once every 3 months instead of once every 6 months in the past. We've also expanded the funding scope to include the establishment of online sales platform. 2. The current geographical scope of the BUD Fund covers 40 economies with which Hong Kong has signed free trade agreements, FTAs, and/or investment promotion and protection agreements, IPPAs, accounting for around 80% of the total value of Hong Kong's external merchandise trade last year. The Chief Executive announced in the 2025 policy address the further expansion of the geographical scope of the BUD Fund to cover 8 more economies, including Belt and Road countries. That is, expanding the geographical scope by 20% to assist SMEs in developing more diversified markets. Meanwhile, as the SME Export Marketing Fund will be consolidated into the BUD Fund in July next year, we will enhance promotion and facilitate enterprises' participation in exhibitions and export marketing activities through EasyBud. Hong Kong is exploring the signing of IPPAs with a number of economies, among which the IPPA negotiation with Qatar has been substantially concluded. Both sides will sign the agreement upon completion of respective internal procedures. The geographical scope of the BUD Fund will further expanded when Hong Kong signs more FTAs and IPPAs in the future. Since March 2025, we have also expanded the geographical scope of e-commerce easy to 10 member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. 3. Over the years, the BUD Fund has been actively supporting SMEs with several rounds of enhancement measures rolled out. At the same time, demands from enterprises for government funding support has surged significantly in recent years. The number of applications for the fund in 2024 increased by over 320% as compared with that in 2019, and close to 90% of the subsidies under the fund were approved in the past 6 years, that is 2019 to 2024. To ensure the financial sustainability of the fund, the government introduced measures in March this year, including the adjustment of the fund ratio of the fund to 1 government to 3 enterprise, in a hope that enterprises will choose appropriate and cost-effective projects more prudently and be more willing to put in resources. Given that the measure was recently launched in March, we need more time to review its effectiveness, and hence do not have plans to adjust the ratio. Supporting SMEs is one of the government's important policies. Therefore, the government will inject more than $3 billion into the BUD Fund in the current and the next financial year. Notwithstanding this, we need to be mindful of the financial sustainability of the funding scheme so more enterprises can make use of the fund and an appropriate spread of beneficiaries can be maintained. As such, the government will prudently use public funds in a timely and focused manner to cope with the complex and ever-changing environment. Apart from enhancing EasyBud and e-commerce easy, we've been providing more targeted funding support to enterprises in implementing green transformation projects, and have specified that professional fees associated with the establishment of new business entities are refundable, so as to assist them in restructuring their supply chains in the face of challenges brought by the trade war. We'll continue to keep in touch with the trade and review the implementation of the fund to provide appropriate support to SMEs while taking into account the financial capability and sustainability eligibility of the fund. Mr. Tan, President, we have the trade war. Enterprises are very active in tapping into overseas markets and overseas sales. E-commerce is an important area. E-commerce easy sub-funds various expenses, say for example, expenditures in expanding their businesses and engagement of influencers. However, it doesn't cover engaging professionals in e-commerce. Will the scheme be further enhanced to help enterprises tap into the opportunities from e-commerce? Secretary, I thank the member for the question. In July 2024, e-commerce Easy was launched to enable enterprises to make better use of the cumulative expenditure. Since March 2024, the scope of e-commerce Easy has been expanded to 10 members of ASEAN countries. The aim is to help enterprises to tap into these markets. The scope covers establishment of networks, registration of websites, design fees for graphics, operating cost of e-shops, advertisements, development of softwares, running of websites, as well as putting ads on websites. Let me give you an example. Well, expenditure spent on third-party websites, say for example, registration of domains, operating fees, say for example, development plans and business plans, as well as payment for official fees and operating fees. In terms of third-party fees, that includes placement of ads, trigger words, as well as enhancement of search engine. It also covers the engagement of influencers or expenditure incurred in the promotion in relation to the media. So all the scope can meet the needs of development of e-commerce by enterprises. Of course, we will keep in view the situation to see what else we can do to enhance our service. In July 2024, all the way to end of September this year, we have received about 650 applications under e-commerce Easy. Progress of approval is satisfactory. We will continue to keep in view the implementation and, if necessary, make improvements. Mr. Dennis Lam, I understand that there are some third parties acting providing one-stop service to help enterprises apply for funding under BUD funds. Some of them will inflate the amount and get a sum from it. There has been some undercover operations revealing these incidents. I want to ask the government if they have carried out any investigations to see if there is indeed this situation and what they propose to do. Secretary, we have been carefully monitoring the possible abuse of BUD fund to ensure prudent use of public money. There is a vigorous approval procedure under the fund to prevent abuse. There may be many parties claiming to be intermediaries, but the actual picture may not be the one painted by what you hear because of the vigorous vetting procedure. The relevant office will vet the application to ensure that all the eligibility requirements are met. There will also be follow-up and verification done with the enterprise. Following that, the Secretariat will forward the applications to relevant departments. Consideration will be made by the panel. If there are doubts, the applications may be rejected. Then the Secretariat will consider support documents as well as reports submitted. All the documents and accounts will have to be submitted to the vetting panel for the final payment to be disbursed. The Secretariat will also conduct site visits and inspections. If the requirements are not met, with the consent of the committee, the Secretariat may suspend the disbursement of the sum or require the enterprise to return the sum. If there are suspicions that fraud or illegal activities have been involved, the case will be forwarded to law enforcement agencies. In addition, we have made it clear in the application guideline that at any stage of the implementation, the Secretariat as well as the Productivity Council may ask the organizer of the project or the deputy organizer of the deputy of the organizer of the project to conduct a visit. If the organizer or deputy organizer fail to attend the meeting, unable to make arrangements, unable to provide a satisfactory answer, the application will be rejected. We'll regularly review the implementation of the fund. We don't rule the possibility that suitable measures will be incorporated to prevent abuse of the fund. Mr. Edmund Wong, I thank the government for implementing the Bud Fund, which helped a lot of SMEs when they are having difficulties in expanding into overseas markets. We ask for the accounts to be made open so that we get a better understanding of the operation of the fund. Say, for example, how much is dispensed to help enterprises so that enterprises will have a better understanding as to what markets they need to expand into in order to benefit from the fund. Secretary, I thank the compliment from the member. From 2012 to 2025 September, we have approved 12,000 applications involving a total funding of about $7.5 billion, benefiting about 7,800 enterprises. For details of the subsidies, as well as other details, you will find them online. Perhaps after the meeting, we will supply the information to the member as well. Mr. Jeffrey LAM. First of all, I thank the government for setting up the Bud Fund. The fund has been of great help to a lot of SMEs. The Secretary as well as the FS have been flying to different places, trying to find new opportunities for local SMEs in overseas markets. In a reply of the Secretary, he talked about geographical scope as well as places that have signed FTAs and IPPAs with Hong Kong. Instead of expanding the scope from time to time, perhaps expand the scopes greatly in one go so that SMEs will find it easier to tap into these markets. Secretary, I thank the member for the question. We have been expanding the application scope of the fund. From China, it's now expanded to 40 economies that have signed FTAs and IPPAs with Hong Kong. That accounts for about 80% of the total value of Hong Kong's external merchandise trade. The geographical scope, as per the announcement made in this year's policy address, will be expanded to cover 8 more economies. The reason why we gradually increase the scope because it depends on the cooperation between Hong Kong and these economies and whether the expansion will help SMEs tap into overseas markets. If there is no limitation of scope, we may attract unnecessary applications or applications with little benefits, which will complicate or add to the onus of the of the processing of applications. That's why we first cover economies with FTAs and IPPAs with Hong Kong, because that, as we can see from the figures, cover 80% of the total value of our external merchandise trade, which is quite good currently. We don't rule the possibility that with a change in the external economic environment, we will review the scope of the Bud Fund to see if it can be further expanded. Mr. Eric Yim. We have the trade war and increasing geopolitical tension. There was an extension that there will be extension of the principal moratorium as well as a number of enhancement measures to help SMEs in expanding into neighboring economies. Given the uncertainties, FNEs are quite vulnerable to external changes. Will the EC Bud application frequency be further enhanced from every 3 months to every 2 or 1 month? Yes, SMEs have been affected by the trade war. We have been introducing enhancement measures into the fund. The applications will be approved within 30 days. However, we still have to go through the procedure to verify information and eligibility. It takes time. We need to make sure that public money is used prudently. We think that 30 days is appropriate. We will consider the members' suggestion to see if there is any room for fine-tuning to expedite the application time. We think currently 30 days is appropriate. Mr. Shanghai Long. I'm sure that the Bud Fund has helped a lot of SMEs. 7,800 enterprises have benefited from the fund. The SCED as well as the Trade Council have been working very actively to organize a Hong Kong Shopping Festival. About 200 or so enterprises from Hong Kong have participated in the Hong Kong Shopping Festival. I think there is an important part under the fund, which is e-commerce easy. How will it be married with Hong Kong Shopping Festival to enhance the effectiveness? The Hong Kong Shopping Festival is an event. It is for development of e-commerce on the mainland. We have done 2 editions with over 200 enterprises participating, so it's received quite well. Next year, in addition to mainland Hong Kong Shopping Festival, we will do the same in ASEAN countries. Enterprises can make use of funding under e-commerce easy to place advertisements for promotion, to produce electronic products or engage influencers. The e-commerce easy and helped enterprises in relation to e-commerce. There are 2 different events. One is for promotion in the mainland, while the other is a funding scheme. They work together. Well, e-commerce enterprises may make use of e-commerce easy to participate in events on mainland or in ASEAN countries. The e-commerce easy helps SMEs to transform to e-commerce.
Question 3, Mr. Michael Lee. Thank you, President. There are views that the fragmented functions of mobile applications launched by the government mean that people often have to download multiple apps to access government information and services. This, in effect, results in a waste of time and public money. In this connection, will the government inform this council first Of the 10 government mobile applications with the fewest downloads in each of the past 5 years and their respective download figures, whether the numbers of downloads of these applications have met the targets set at the time of their launch. Second, of the 10 government departments that have provided the most mobile applications for public download in each of the past 5 years and set out the key functions of these applications and their respective annual maintenance costs. And third, as the government has indicated that it aims to migrate all services provided by various government mobile applications onto the IM Smart mini program platform by the end of this year to achieve a single portal for e-government services, and halve the number of government applications within the next 2 years. Of the specific details and progress of such exercises, including whether it will integrate the newly launched electronic driving license mobile application from the Transport Department into IM Smart to reduce maintenance costs. Secretary of Innovation, Technology and Industry. President, for the question raised by Mr. Michael Lee, I have consulted the relevant bureaus and departments, or BDs. My reply is as follows. Mobile applications or apps are one of the ways for the government to implement e-government services, with bringing convenience and benefits to the public being our guiding principle. BNDs develop various mobile apps according to their business need for the public to download and use. Currently, 75 mobile apps are maintained by 34 BNDs, covering different policy areas. Regarding parts 1 and 2 of the question on the government mobile applications with the least downloads and the BNDs providing the most mobile apps, the relevant information is set out at Annex 1 and Annex 2 respectively. The Digital Policy Office, or DPO, has published the practice guide for developing mobile apps. For creating and running government mobile apps, the guide requires BNDs to set out the objectives and usage of the app before development and to conduct regular review after the apps are launched to ensure the existing apps are updated, optimized, or integrated in a cost-effective manner. In evaluating their effectiveness, apart from the numbers of downloads, BNDs also comprehensively consider factors, including the target user groups. For example, whether the apps are designed specifically for people with special needs, user feedback, and the changing demands. Over the past 5 years, BNDs have decommissioned or consolidated around 40 mobile apps into other platforms. At the same time, to strengthen the coordination of digital government services launched by various BNDs, the DPO issued a circular early this year requiring BNDs to prioritize the use of IM Smart as the primary platform for delivering their new mobile apps or online services. BNDs must not develop new standalone mobile apps which are separate from IM Smart unless there are sufficient justifications and approvals from the heads of BNDs and the DPO. In fact, one of the policy goals of the digital government is to give the public one-stop access to government information and services, enabling e-government services on a single portal through the centralized IM Smart platform. The DPO will launch a mini-program platform on IM Smart this year, marking a key step towards an integrated digital government. By then, citizens will be able to directly access e-services provided by various BNDs with their mini-programs on IM Smart without having to download the mobile apps of individual BNDs. If BNDs need to keep or launch their own mobile apps for reasons of policy, user experience, or operation, particularly for apps with numerous or complex functions, they can also leverage IM Smart by migrating some frequently used functions to the mini-program platform to give the public much easier access to e-government services. The mini-program platform on IM Smart will be launched in December this year. We expect that about 20 or so existing government mobile apps can be gradually migrated to the mini-program platform within 2 years, while another 20 or so mobile apps will be phased out slashing the total number of government mobile apps. As for the remaining roughly 30 apps, including the Transport Department's electronic driving license, the DPO will continue to work with the relevant BNDs to review their implementation so as to ensure that government mobile apps fulfill their original purpose of bringing convenience and benefits to the public. Mr. Michael Lee. Thank you, President. I Am Smart is becoming more and more popular. I also welcome the mini program platform for more government apps to be migrated to that platform, and then we will have single portal access. I believe the government will also keep working on AI assistance for people. People have told me when they get a new phone and then they get into authentication problems, they struggle with logging on to I Am Smart. I hope this can lead to follow-up actions. So my question is, after mobile apps are launched, are there specific key performance indicators to measure the success of the apps? Can we first launch web versions or trial versions to test the response? And when the response is poor, what do we do? Secretary. Thank you. As I said, when bureaus and departments want to launch a new mobile app, they need the approval of the heads of department. They also have to consult the DPO. The overall direction of the DPO is to use I Am Smart as a platform as much as possible. And that is making the most of the mini program platform to be launched. That's the overarching principle. Some apps come with a small download number because they serve a very specific audience. When an app is downloaded for less than 10,000 times, we will have to explore whether we should move that app to the mini program platform. And this will be a requirement going forward. Many apps will be migrated to I Am Smart so that we can give people single portal access to government services. Take I Am Smart as an example. In 2024, our indicators were that 17 million downloads, fewer than 20 million times. In terms of users, we already have recorded more than 44 million. As at early October this year, I Am Smart recorded more than 3.8 million active users. Now, by the end of this year, we want to exceed 4 million, and we want to achieve single portal access. And more than 1,300 forms and services will be available on I Am Smart. There will be more AI-enabled tools, AI assistants that will fuse with I Am Smart, and that will provide more accessible services for the public. Dr. Dennis Lam. Thank you, President. Patients and social welfare groups have told me that when they applied to the Samaritan Fund, they had to go through a complex procedure. They had to go to those officers to submit the forms in person. They also had to submit those supporting documents. That's a challenge for those with mobility impairments. So my question is, for applications for the Samaritan Fund, can we put that on I Am Smart to make it easier for patients to apply for the fund? Secretary. The DPO has been striving to provide barrier-free access, and this applies to barrier-free or accessibility design on websites that will make it easier for people with disabilities to access online services and websites. Part of that work also includes accessibility design for departmental apps. Dr. Lam brought up a fund falling under the Health Bureau. The Health Bureau has their own apps such as HA Go and eHealth. And we have required different departments to integrate their apps into I Am Smart. Now, on making specific funds more accessible to the public, the DPO will work with specific bureaus to further explore those cases. Mr. Lam Chun-sing. I can see a positive response from the Bureau. Apps will be integrated into the future mini-program platform. When departments want to develop an app, the DPO will be there as a gatekeeper. Some departments have multiple apps. Take RTHK as an example. There are 5 apps. Total development cost more than $1 million. Annual maintenance cost $700,000. There's one special app for people with visual impairment. The other apps are for different programs. So in such cases, can that department integrate the apps, provide a single app, and people can access everything? That can save you the operational costs. Secretary, I thank the member for his follow-up question. When we consider the mini programs, we have to consider the service users. The member brought up the RTHK's apps. One such app is for people with visual impairment, which is a small group. So we have to strike a balance. We have to consider the target users and the overall maintenance. The broad principle is that we try to minimize standalone apps as much as we can. We try to integrate apps into the IM Smart platform as much as possible. But when departments have the need to keep a certain standalone app, we respect those decisions. 75 departments run apps are maintained by 34 BNDs. We will remove 20 apps. Another 20 apps will move to IM Smart. For the remaining 30 apps, we will work with those bureaus and departments on how to further enhance their services. Mr. Sunny TAN. I thank the DPO for developing IM Smart. The main reply also says that bureaus and departments have been maintaining their own apps, and there will be a mini program platform. The policy address mentions the AI efficacy enhancement team, and that team will work on process reengineering. So can we revisit the services? We're now looking at services from individual departments and bureaus. But let's look at the community or demographic groups as a whole: seniors, students, patients, enterprises, or workers. Can we take a cross-bureau approach? A senior may be on OAA or OALA, but that senior also has medical needs. So can we take a cross-bureau approach to the needs of different demographic groups? Secretary, I thank Mr. Tan for his follow-up question. On enhancing efficacy through technology, meaning the work of the AI efficacy enhancement team, the DPO is trying to launch a mini program platform. The directions of these two efforts are in line with each other. Now, on launching targeted mobile apps, the goal is to give people easy access to those services. Having a shared platform for single portal access will help us provide greater convenience and benefits to people. Mr. Tan raised a great question. We will continue to work with members on this. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, President. Back in 2022, I moved a motion on e-government services. I thank the ITIB and the DPO after its inception for the enhancements they brought to IM Smart. Our approach now is to try to put as many apps onto the mini program platform as we can. Now I'm looking at the selected services, roughly 20 or so. I've been told that when you have to switch from one app to another, or when you go from one app to a payment service, you cannot do this as a one-step process on IM Smart. That's what I've been told. And my question for the government is, what will we do about this hurdle in preventing people from making easy payments on IM Smart? Secretary, IM Smart is an integrated service platform. We try to achieve single portal access to services as much as we can. When it comes to payment, that's a more complicated issue at a higher level. Safety or security comes first. The DPO will still have to rely on other services. So people will have to go from IM Smart to a different platform when payment is involved. There's room for further enhancements for IM Smart in the future. There will be many technical enhancements. There's AI assistant, there's AI navigation, and we will also launch HK Chat. There will be many such features in the future. In December this year, we will launch the mini program platform. That will come out in the end of this year. More features will come on stream. Mr. Chu Kwok-keung. Thank you. Pretty much every government department launches its app. But impractical apps are still online, whereas popular apps are removed. Back in 2017, there was an app on navigating museums. That app gives you description of museums and heritage, and there are multimedia functions on the app. That app was popular. Now, from the documents for the SFC this year, there were 72,000 downloads, way above the downloads for other apps. But starting from June, this app has ceased to receive updates, and then the app was taken offline. Why was IM Guide removed? Did we assess the impact on the users before taking this offline? At hand, I have information on departments that provided the most apps. So we have my library, Smart Play, and also a stargazing app. So these are the figures we have with the most downloads. I also have some figures on apps with the least downloads. You have to consider the number in the context of the users. Let's look at the decommissioned apps. It's up to departments to request that an app be decommissioned. A department may think an app fails to meet its target. That department makes a request, and then we take off that app. Departments may also propose a new app when they see a need. So it's an interactive process. So this process will continue in the future. Mr. Edmund Wong. Thank you, President. Apps were launched with good intentions. The goal was to give the public access to information. But over the years, different departments launched different apps, and some departments launched multiple apps. Yesterday, there was a football match between Team Hong Kong, China, and Team Bangladesh. I used one app to watch the match live, but I was asked to download a different app for the live cast, and that was not user-friendly. Now there will be this mini program platform. Even then, there will be 30 or so standalone apps. Are there plans or are there incentives to integrate their existing apps into IM Smart to give people easier access to the services? Secretary. There were more than 100 mobile apps. Many have been decommissioned or integrated. Now we're left with 75. 40 of them will either be decommissioned or integrated into IM Smart, and then we're left with 30. Bureaus and departments have the reasons for keeping those apps. Some apps are very specialized. They're for a specific audience, or they come with complicated functions. Even then, the DPO is talking to those bureaus and departments. We're talking about whether we can move the frequently used functions to IM Smart so that people can go to IM Smart for single portal access to services. The DPO will remain in touch with those bureaus and departments about this matter. Now we have the electronic driving license function. This platform was proposed in 2021. This function was not made part of IM Smart. So now the DPO is talking to the TD, and we're trying to incorporate these special apps.
Question 4, Mr. Stanley LI. Thank you, President. 2 incidents occurred last month, including a case in which a bus driver was injured while driving by a metal rod propelled into the air from the road surface after being run over by vehicles, and another where a bus was struck by road debris on its windscreen. These incidents have aroused grave public concern about the risks posed by obstructions on the road surface to road users. In this connection, will the government inform this Council 1. Whether it will take measures to step up clearance of obstructions on highways, such as by increasing inspection frequency, installing additional CCTVs along the roads, improving clearance procedures so as to effectively ensure the safety of all road users? If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. 2. Whether the government will review the existing laws to impose additional fines and other heavier penalties on behaviors concerning depositing or leaving objects on carriageways which may pose hazards to road safety in order to enhance the deterrent effect, if so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. And 3, whether it will review the existing mechanism for members of the public to report road obstructions, establish more convenient channels for reporting potential road safety hazards, such as by setting up dedicated hotlines and online platforms and so on, and step up road safety publicity and education efforts to encourage the public to proactively report potential road safety hazards and remove them under safe circumstances, thereby jointly preventing the recurrence of related accidents, if so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, the government attaches great importance to road safety, including the requirement for moving vehicles to properly contain or secure their loads. Having consulted the Hong Kong Police Force, the Highways Department, and the Transport Department TD, I respond to the question raised by Mr. Stanley LI as follows. 1. The Highway Department engages contractors to carry out daily proactive inspections and cleaning of expressways under its purview, using specialized road sweepers. Should any obstacles, including construction materials, be found scattered on road surface, contractors will right away dispatch personnel and equipment to expedite the clearance. In addition to regularly reviewing contractors' work records, the Highways Department also conducts on-site spot checks to evaluate the effectiveness of cleaning efforts. Upon receiving public complaints or reports, the Highway Department will also promptly arrange for contractors to conduct immediate cleaning to minimize the risks posed by road obstacles to road users. The Highway Department has set up a performance pledge for clearing obstacles on expressways, targeting to arrive at the scene within 1.5 hours of receiving a referral and immediately arrange for clearance. All cases in the past 3 years have met this target. In addition, the Highway Department actively applies innovative technologies in the maintenance of carriageways. For example, inspection vehicles equipped with laser scanning devices and global satellite positioning technology are deployed to swiftly identify potholes and other potential defects on road surfaces. This enables a comprehensive understanding of road conditions and allows for the prioritization of repair works, thereby enhancing safety and maintenance efficiency. 2. Under the Road Traffic Control Regulations KEP 374G, a driver shall ensure that any load is properly secured to or contained inside a vehicle, and that its weight and manner in which it is placed in the vehicle shall not cause danger to any person. The police is responsible for law enforcement action against related contraventions. Any driver who contravenes the relevant regulation is liable to a maximum fine of $5,000 and imprisonment for 3 months on first conviction, and to a maximum fine of $10,000 and imprisonment for 6 months on subsequent convictions. Furthermore, the TD takes law enforcement action against vehicles failing to properly secure the loads in the area of government tunnels and control areas pursuant to the relevant regulations. Offenders are liable to a maximum fine of $5,000 and imprisonment for 6 months. In the past 3 years, all departments have consistently strengthened enforcement efforts. Prosecution figures have dropped. This shows that enforcement and penalties are effective. We'll continue to monitor the situation closely and review the law as appropriate. The police force also continuously monitors data on serious and fatal traffic accidents and conducts citywide enforcement operations in response, particularly targeting non-compliance by lorries. These include the crackdown on lorry offenses operation conducted this September with the aim of enhancing overall road safety. Relevant departments are proactively exploring the use of new technology to enhance the enforcement efficiency and strengthen road safety. Recently, the police force conducted the first trial of drone-assisted traffic enforcement on non-urban road sections to combat dangerous driving. The police will review the effectiveness of the trial and consider the feasibility of extending the initiative to other areas or offense types, including insecure vehicle loads and overloading. 3. The operators of government tunnels and control areas provide hotlines for the public to report incidents. The TD has been closely monitoring operators' performance and hotline operation regularly. Some members of the public were unable to contact the operator of Tai Lam Tunnel via the hotline from September 15 to the morning of September 16, 2025. The operator has submitted a report on this incident to the TD. The report indicates that at the time of the incident, the call transfer mechanism of the telephone conversation recording device malfunctioned, preventing external calls from being transferred to tunnel staff. Following emergency repairs, the system resumed normal on September 16. Due to the operator's failure to promptly respond to the hotline, the TD has instructed them to strengthen their preparedness and contingency measures for tunnel emergencies to ensure the smooth operation of the systems. We consider the operator's failure to maintain effective 24-hour hotline operations unacceptable. The TD has issued a notice of default to the operator in accordance with the contract, in order to hold it to account. The operator has provided compensation as contractually required. The department will also continue to follow up on this matter seriously and enhance the monitoring of hotline operations. The public may report road conditions to government departments through multiple channels at present. To enhance incident management, the TD plans to introduce AI-based CCTV systems for detecting road obstructions and incidents when replacing the traffic control and surveillance systems in tunnels and controlled areas. The TD has been conducting publicity and educational activities through various channels to enhance the goods and vehicle trade's awareness of safe loading. For example, a code of practice for the loading of vehicles is compiled in accordance with the law, which provides guidelines on safe loading. The TD also issues the Goods and Vehicle Trade newsletter and holds regular meetings with the goods vehicle trade. Reminder messages are affixed on traffic signal controllers and displayed on variable message signs in tunnel areas. The TD and the police will continue to work with the Road Safety Council to conduct publicity and educational programs, such as publishing and distributing the Road Safety Bulletin and disseminating information through social media platforms to enhance road users' awareness of safety. Thank you. Mrs. Stanley LI, thank you. Accommodation, commuting, food, all these are very important to people's lives. I believe most members of the public use the roads when they commute in the city, whether they are pedestrians or motorists. In the main reply given by the Secretary, as I understand, there are measures under the purview of different policy bureaus. I can see an enhancement of the deterrent effect. But in fact, quite a lot of motorists, owing to a moment of convenience, put other road users' safety at risk. These drivers wrap the miscellaneous objects very carelessly or very randomly. These cause obstructions on the road. There are sharp objects being dropped off the vehicles. Say they're renovation tools, there are also construction tools. All these are very dangerous. Motorists need to see how they can better deal with this situation. This might be just a minority of motorists on the road, but because of a moment of convenience, they jeopardize road safety and pose a serious threat to road safety. There is a reporting mechanism of the Transport Department. If we want to enhance the deterrent effect, is it possible to roll out similar programs to make sure motorists will safeguard the safety of road users when they carry objects in their vehicles? Secretary, thank you. In order to ensure road safety, especially for goods and vehicle trade which transport goods in their vehicles, we do need to see how we can protect road safety in order to protect other road users. We will take law enforcement actions based on intelligence or based on the reports made by the public. We need to enhance publicity and public education. In accordance with CAP 374G, in Changsha controlled area, there are different applicable laws. In the future, we'll work towards this direction to disseminate information to the public. We will increase the penalty and we will also conduct public education initiatives. There's a dedicated hotline for tunnels. We'll see if we can provide reporting mechanisms or reporting platforms for the public to submit reports. We'll continue to liaise with operators and the Transport Department. We'll keep an open mind to see how we can enhance the atmosphere of protecting road safety. Thank you. Mr. Benson Lok. Thank you, President. In the main reply of the government, it is said that expressways will be cleared by operators of tunnels on highways, especially when motorists drive near the side of the expressways. It is easy for drivers to see gravel being propelled into the air. These cause noises. This will not only damage the vehicles, but then this gravel will also be propelled into the air and they will hit the windscreen. These jeopardize road safety. I myself have already experienced these on the roads. These are definitely hidden danger. They are risks on the roads. Are there any targeted measures for the gravel on the roads? Secretary. The Highway Department has always conducted regular inspections on expressways, seeing the most number of vehicles. There are also weekly inspections for other thoroughfares and highways in relation to gravel seen on the roads. We understand this will pose a serious threat to road safety. The FEHD and the Highways Department will better collaborate with one another. The Highways Department is responsible for cleaning of expressways, whereas the FEHD is responsible for public roads. They aim to complement each other in order to clear obstructions on the roads as soon as possible. In relation to regular inspections, when we receive reports from the public, say there's gravel or there's litter the Highways Department will definitely clear these obstructions as soon as possible. Whenever there is gravel, the Highways Department will refer these cases to the relevant department for follow-up. When it comes to the use of technological devices will be deployed to aid in regular inspections or weekly inspections. This will help them identify hidden risks as soon as possible so that we can follow up on these cases more efficiently. Mr. Chen Hofeng. Thank you, President. As I understand, for dump trucks, there's a cover on the dump truck. But for goods vehicle, in addition to dump trucks, there's no legal requirement for a cover. For skips weighing more than 5.5 tons, there are a lot of recyclables as well as other miscellaneous objects. These fall down the skips. Even just a small piece of paper is a danger to motorists. It affects road safety. In this regard, will the Secretary consider mandating a cover on skips in order to protect road safety so that no objects will fall off the vehicle? Secretary. Thank you. As for prosecution figures, we keep a close eye on the situation. In the past 3 years, we can see that the prosecution figures have seen a decline. But of course, one case like this is all too many. That's why we put in place measures when working with the Road Safety Council and the Construction Safety Council to enhance the deterrent effect, to mandate a cover on skips in order to protect objects from falling off the vehicle. We will also consider providing more detailed guidelines or legislation. We will liaise with the Road Safety Council to explore the ways forward. We want to help the goods vehicle trade to comply with laws. We will stay pragmatic while safeguarding the road safety on the roads in Hong Kong. Thank you. Mr. Peter Shield. Thank you, President. On roads, we often see bits and bobs. I believe they drop off from goods vehicle. Gravel is also seen on the roads. We made calls to the police, and these objects are cleared very speedily. For default seen on the roads, Mr. Ng, Assistant Director of the Highways Department, starting from 2024, I have talked to him for 36 times. He even helped me out in the small hours. I want to commend him. However, some contractors are responsible for some road sections. So, why did these contractors fail to notice the defects on the roads? You do need to look into the situation. Well, I believe you need to conduct even more frequent road inspections, not weekly, probably once every 3 days, so there wouldn't be any gravel or uneven road surfaces on the roads. This will ensure road safety. Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Peter Shield, for your liaison and interaction with the Highways Department. Many members of the public have reported road services to the department through the hotline. They want us to handle the situation very speedily. At present, in the contract with contractors, there is a rigorous mechanism to monitor the work of contractors. Upon the completion of the obstruction clearance work, they will have to submit work records as contractually required. The Highways Department will also conduct on-site spot checks. When we identify any dangers or risks, we will dock points of the contractors, and this will affect the award of the contract to be renewed. Road maintenance matters. At the start of this year, The Highways Department use very effective road surface materials to pave the road surfaces. We want them to be more durable, about 7% more durable than traditional surfaces. In 2024, we rolled out a mechanism. We have introduced laser scanning devices to keep a close eye on the situation on the road, say for uneven road surfaces, potholes on the roads. These will help us to conduct preventive checks. This will also help us to accord priority to cases warranting more attention. This will also reduce risks on the roads. Thank you, Mr. Dennis Leung. Road safety is paramount. If roads aren't safe, motorists will be put at risk. And for public transport, say buses, this will lead to serious and significant fatalities. For skips and litter trucks, gravel will fall off the vehicles. The quality of road materials is also of concern. In part 1 of the reply, the Highways Department engages contractors to carry out daily proactive inspections and cleaning. However, we don't have any figures. One contractor, one vehicle for inspection. The reply is silent on figures. I'd like to know for the same road section, what is the frequency of inspections and cleaning of these road sections? Secretary, thank you, Mr. Dennis Leung, for your questions. To meet the performance pledge of road obstruction clearance, we need a holistic approach. We need to carry out inspections, say daily inspections for highways with more vehicles, and for other trunk roads, weekly inspections are conducted, and we do have a performance pledge. 95% of the cases need to be dealt with within 1.5 hours. And for other reports, within 5 hours, obstructions will have to be cleared. And we also have similar performance pledge in relation to other situations. We'll keep a close eye on the situation, and the Highways Department will also conduct on-site spot checks. And in future, for major roads, we will install CCTVs as well as other devices. We want to introduce the elements of artificial intelligence in order to more comprehensively monitor conditions on the roads as well as the cleaning of obstructions on the roads.
Question number 5, Dr. Hoey Simon LEE. President, it is reported that some individuals come to Hong Kong under the relevant talent admission schemes but leave after giving birth to their children with the sole purpose of obtaining the Hong Kong permanent resident status for the children rather than a true intention to pursue the career in Hong Kong. There are views that such practice not only goes against the original intent of the talent policy but also creates uncertainty to resource planning of various services in Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether there is any mechanism under the current talent policy to prevent situations where individuals come to Hong Kong under the guise of career development but actually just want to give birth? 2, to avoid the recurrence of a large number of doubly non-permanent resident children, that is, children born in Hong Kong but whose parents are non-permanent residents of Hong Kong, whether the government has considered establishing a mechanism requiring tenants coming to Hong Kong and the dependents to sign a declaration confirming their intention to remain in Hong Kong for career development when making delivery bookings at public or private medical institutions in Hong Kong, or requiring them to submit supporting documents such as proof of employment or immigration records to prove that they have met the requirement of staying in Hong Kong for a certain period. And 3, whether it has assessed the impact of the talent admission schemes on Hong Kong's long-term population scale and structure with a view to precisely controlling the allocation of resources for public services such as social welfare, housing, healthcare, and education. Secretary for Labour and Welfare. President, as an international talent hub, Hong Kong has been welcoming outside talents to come for development, thereby enriching the local talent pool. To address the challenges posed by an aging population and manpower shortage, the current term government has, since the end of 2022, implemented a series of measures to troll for talents. These include the launch of the Top Talent Pass Scheme, or TTPS, targeting talents with high income and academic qualifications, as well as enhancement of the various existing schemes. So far, more than 240,000 global elites from diverse backgrounds have come to Hong Kong for development. Among others, the TTPS has received enthusiastic responses, with over 90,000 talents having arrived in Hong Kong. Among the first batch of entrants whose visas have expired, more than half successfully secured extension of stay. Most of them have joined key industries and earned competitive salaries, demonstrating strong market competitiveness. In the World Talent Ranking 2025 published recently by the International Institute for Management Development, Hong Kong's ranking leapt markedly to 4th globally, marking the highest ever ranking in Asia. This is clear evidence that the talent attraction policies are in the right direction with effective outcomes. After the talents have been successfully attracted to come to Hong Kong, the challenge lies in retaining them. In addition to continuing with the efforts in boosting the economy and the growth of emerging industries to provide favorable environment for local and overseas talents, the government is committed to providing support for talents to encourage them to settle down and contribute to our development. In consultation with the Health Bureau, Housing Bureau, Education Bureau, Immigration Department, and Census and Statistics Department, my reply to the members' question is as follows. 1 and 2. As mentioned earlier, in the global competition for talents, our real challenge lies in how to retain them. The majority of talents admitted to Hong Kong under various admission schemes are very young, with 70% under the age of 40. In particular, nearly all admitted under Category C of the TTPS are aged 30 or below. They are at critical stages in their careers and also within the prime age range for starting families. The government's follow-up surveys have revealed that family considerations, such as arrangements for children's education, are among the top priorities for incoming talents when making a relocation decision. This reflects that talent retention is not only driven by career opportunities, but also the overall needs of their families. More comprehensive support should be offered to strengthen the sense of belonging of talents and their families coming to Hong Kong. Outside talents is a vital driving force for our economic development. Taking TTPS as an example, the entrants are estimated to contribute directly to our economy by an amount of some 34 billion Hong Kong dollars per annum, which is equivalent to about 1.2% of the local GDP. We hope to regard these talents as part of our community, and therefore we must address their family needs just as we do for other Hong Kong residents, so as to help them settle in the city. The current dependent policy allows talents to bring their spouses and minor children to reside in Hong Kong. We also welcome them to start families and give birth to children in Hong Kong so as to establish roots here. These new additions to our population are and will continue to be an important source of the local workforce, which will improve demographic structure and alleviate the challenges posed by the local aging population and the low birth rate, providing long-term manpower support for Hong Kong's sustainable development. I must emphasize that the various talent admission schemes with different positionings all have clear eligibility criteria and vetting procedures. Under current laws, anyone who furnishes false information or makes false representation to the Immigration Department are liable on conviction to a maximum fine of $150,000 and imprisonment for 14 years. The Immigration Department has a rigorous and effective mechanism in place for assessing each application under the talent admission schemes in a rigorous manner. This is to ensure that only applicants meeting the criteria and immigration policies will be admitted into Hong Kong. The approved applicants are all talents with competitiveness that Hong Kong aims to attract. Based on our observations, talents who have not yet secured employment are genuinely interested in pursuing long-term development in Hong Kong. We are not aware of anyone coming to Hong Kong under the guise of career development just to give birth. The government understands the public expectation about proper use of limited public resources. At present, incoming talents represents only a small fraction of our overall population. They have not put pressure on local resources. The Health Bureau has no plan at the moment to impose different restrictions or requirements on maternity service bookings based on the route through which individuals obtain their Hong Kong residency. However, the Labour and Welfare Bureau will continue to keep in view the settlement of talents in Hong Kong, including collecting data on talents' childbirth to facilitate better resource planning. If any abuse of the schemes is detected, the government will take appropriate action. 3. To provide the basis for the government's planning in various policy areas and resource allocation, the CNSD and the Labour and Welfare Bureau regularly compile updated population and manpower projection, respectively, to understand the trend in Hong Kong's population and manpower needs during the projection period. Currently, these two sets of projections have taken into account the impact of the schemes. The next population census is scheduled to be conducted in 2026, and the Labour and Welfare Bureau is now conducting a midterm update on the manpower projection, with the results expected to be released in the fourth quarter of 2026. The various policy bureaus will continuously review the implementation and effectiveness of the measures under their respective purviews, responding to the latest demographic and manpower needs. For instance, the Housing Bureau will continue to closely monitor the supply and demand of different types of housing and adjust policies in a timely manner. The Health Bureau will continue to deepen the reform of the healthcare system to ensure viability in the long term. The Education Bureau will review education policies from time to time with a view to meeting the needs of society. Dr. Lee. Now, I put forward this question, but I must stress that I support the various talent admission schemes. This is of paramount importance to the future development of Hong Kong. Now, the focus is on the eligibility criteria of applicants. Once approval is granted, there is no way to find out if these people stay in Hong Kong in order to pursue career development in the long term. Now, according to the administration's answer, they are not aware of anyone coming to Hong Kong under the guise of career development just to give birth. These are people who are genuinely interested in pursuing long-term development here. Now, my question is, therefore, whether there is any mechanism to monitor the situation, or whether this mechanism will be enhanced. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for the question. For the talent admission schemes, we usually start with a visa, which is good for 2 years, and that the applicant will need to apply for renewal of the visa in order to eventually acquire the permanent residence status. Now, the second point is for incoming talents who bring their spouses and children to Hong Kong, adoptive children, etc. If they want to raise a family and give birth to children here, once their status has been approved, then this is entirely possible and in line with our policy objective. Now, as to what the member have mentioned, and the concern for abuse of these talent admission schemes. Now, judging from the number of births in the recent 2 years, and according to our observation, we have not identified this trend. But of course, as I mentioned in the main reply, we will continue to look into the matter, and that means we will be collecting data and closely monitor the situation to gauge the needs of talents. Dr. Martin Liao. President, on various social media platforms, we see the so-called tips for applying for talent admission schemes as well as intermediary services. Now, this may be conducive to attracting talents, but if at a closer look, there seems to be advice on preparing false work experience and other qualifications in order to circumvent the eligibility requirements. There are also advertisements on the social welfare benefits in Hong Kong. Now, are there measures to combat the abuse of the schemes by intermediary services? Secretary, thank you, President, and thank you, the member, for the question. On a regular basis, we keep track of the posts on various social media platforms, including Xiaohongshu, which is quite popular in the mainland. And in this regard, we have set up a special account on Xiaohongshu so that we provide an official channel for disseminating information to interested applicants. And there is also a way to dispel misinformation. We also leverage different channels, including talks for talents, etc., to disseminate information. We emphasize repeatedly that the Immigration Department is the gatekeeper and all applications will be closely scrutinized. And we also remind applicants not to believe in these advertisements on social media, because if you are not eligible, there is no way you get the approval of the Immigration Department. We understand members' concern, and I reassure members that we'll only give approval to applicants who are truly meeting the requirements. Ms. Eunice Yong, in relation to false declarations and false qualifications, I understand that the Immigration Department cracked down on a syndicate earlier this year, and there's also a new mechanism for certifying the academic qualifications by a third party. So since the enhancement measure in July this year, has there been any other such cases? Because as I understand, different institutions have put in place measures for certifying the academic qualifications of applicants. I just want to know whether the government has adopted any new measures in a systematic manner to tackle the problem at source. Secretary, thank you. Now, of course, it is very important to ensure accuracy of all the information submitted along with the application, including the academic qualifications. Now, the Immigration Department has introduced a new measure. The applicant will need to pay for a third-party certification of academic qualifications in support of the application. So that means a very high threshold is put in place. The academic qualifications must first be certified by a third party before we accept the application. Now, there are also other new technologies, including AI, blockchain, and we'll definitely adopt these technologies if proven to be effective. What is important is that they put in place an effective firewall, and as such, we're able to proceed much more efficiently. With technology, we can replace some of the manpower needs. Mr. Ronnie Chen, President, I fully agree with Secretary Mr. Sun that talent admission schemes would provide a boost to our local economic development as well as enhancement of the quality of local workforce. Now, in the main reply about collecting data from talents for renewing visas, I understand that these renewal applications will be processed once every 2 years. Since we are very concerned about talents coming to Hong Kong along with their spouses and children, would you consider adjusting the frequency? For example, an annual survey should be conducted, and that these talents should provide sufficient information for our assessment, including the number of children and the housing needs, etc. Secretary, well, that is a very good question. I think that, of course, the point of collection of data happens exactly at the time of renewal of visas. But on top of that, we also actively consider other channels of collecting data. Take the Top Talent Pass scheme as an example. The renewal rate is 55%. So what about the remaining 45%? If they do not apply for renewal of visa, how will we be able to gauge their situation? That is why we want to come up with more ways to reach out to them so as to help us get hold of the most up-to-date information. Mr. Johnny Ng. talents are the primary resources, and we have done a very good job in attracting talents. Many talents have come to Hong Kong. Now, I understand that they are required to fill in questionnaires, but on top of that, whether these talents are self-employed or employers or employees, they need to file tax returns. Will you consider using the tax information to ascertain how successful the talent admission schemes are? Secretary, thank you, President and the member. We understand that there is more concern about talents coming in under the Top Talent Pass scheme and their economic contribution, including how much tax they pay. Now, we do projections based on certain models, but it may not be appropriate to ask the Inland Revenue Department for tax information. So we need to conduct assessments when it comes to getting hold of more data. Mr. Champula, President. Now, the Top Talent Pass scheme is supposed to attract global talents. However, the majority of talents coming under the TTPS are from the mainland. So my question is on global talent attraction. What more can be done? Because we are just taking away talent from our country. On the whole, we are not attracting more talents from around the world, and this is what we're supposed to do in order to grow our wealth and talent pool. So what more can be done to attract overseas talents? Secretary, President, Mr. Chan, indeed, take TTPS as an example. About 90% of talents coming in under the scheme are mainlanders. Slightly over 5% of these talents are overseas passport holders. As for their place of graduation, now for Category A, we don't ask for this information. For Categories B and C, in fact, in the past few years, and this is becoming a trend, about 40% of these talents have graduated from the prestigious universities in Europe and the US. So we call them global talents as well, and we are not doing too bad. So it's about 1/4 taking into account all talent admission schemes. Now, we position ourselves as an international hub for high caliber talents. So in terms of publicity, we focus on external publicity, and we have yielded results. For example, in September, we received some 20 young people from Germany, and they have learned about Hong Kong through our publicity efforts, and they've decided to take forward development in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, and we will make a sustained effort in this regard. Mr. Paul Chair. President, I think the crux of the matter is that there is a concern that Top Talent Pass scheme may be abused, and it will become an alternative route for non-doubly permanent residents in Hong Kong. Now, according to the Secretary's reply, the government is not aware of anyone coming to Hong Kong under the guise of career development just to give birth. And yet, if you read further, the Secretary said that further observation is required because so far there is no data on childbirths relating to overseas or incoming talents. And therefore, on what basis would you say that there is no abuse? Secretary. Thank you, President, members. I don't think we should relate talents to or doubly non-permanent resident children, because be it high caliber talents or talents coming in under other admission schemes, they have passed the eligibility test. Now, Mr. Chair's question is why we have drawn the conclusion without sufficient data available, and how do we tell that there isn't a trend of talents coming in under the guise of career development just to give birth. That is because we have a persistently low birth rate. If you recall the type 2 babies incident in those years, basically the birth rate increased very quickly if you look at the curve. So at a macro level, I don't think this phenomenon, this worrying phenomenon has emerged yet. But of course, the government should closely monitor the situation, because we want talents to come and make contributions to our economy. We will try other ways to continue with the observation to make sure that this talent admission scheme is not being abused.
Last question, seeking an oral reply, Mr. Stanley LI. Deputy President, the government launched the Elderly Healthcare Voucher GBA pilot scheme in June last year to extend the coverage of the Elderly Healthcare Vouchers EHCVs to suitable medical institutions in the GBA. The pilot scheme has now extended to 9 mainland cities in the GBA, with the number of service points increased to a total of 21 after the addition of 5 pilot medical institutions in August this year, further enhancing the coverage of cross-boundary healthcare services. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. As the Secretary for Health has previously indicated that the government is considering progressively extending the Elderly Healthcare Voucher Scheme to Fujian Province, of the relevant ideas, specific arrangements, and timetable. 2. Of the number of person times of Hong Kong elderly persons who have used EHCVs in GBA under the pilot scheme to date, with a breakdown by city and medical institution. Whether the government has analyzed the relevant utilization rates and trends. And 3. Whether during the implementation of the pilot scheme, the SAR government has established a coordination mechanism with the relevant mainland authorities in respect of the sharing of medical records, payment procedures, medical dispute resolution mechanisms, the collection of feedback from the elderly, etc., and formulated specific agreements or cooperation arrangements. Secretary for Health. President, the government launched the Elderly Health Care Voucher Scheme EHVS in 2009, which aims at providing financial incentives through offering partial subsidies for elderly persons to choose private primary health care services that suit their health needs. Each eligible Hong Kong elderly person is currently provided with an annual EHCV amount of $2,000 with the accumulation limit of $8,000. The expenditure for EHVS increased from $682 million in 2014 to 15 to $3.424 billion in 2024 to 25. The estimated expenditure for the EHVS in the 2025-26 is $4.15 billion. As at end September 2025, over 1.79 million elderly persons have used EHCVs. In consultation with the Department of Health, the reply to the question is as follows. 1. The government has been actively promoting GBA healthcare collaboration in recent years in order to provide eligible Hong Kong elderly persons with more service points in the GBA and to offer them more convenience and flexibility. The government launched the Elderly Healthcare Voucher GBA pilot scheme in 2024. Since June 2024, the coverage of EHCVs has been extended by phases to 7 integrated medical or dental institutions in the GBA, covering Guangzhou, Zhongshan, Dongguan, and Shenzhen. Among them are 2 designated dental institutions in Shenzhen for addressing the demand of Hong Kong elderly persons for dental services. In view of the positive responses from the local community, the government announced the extension of the pilot scheme in May this year to include 12 additional medical institutions to cover all 9 GBA cities. The goal was fully achieved in August. Together with 2 existing service points operated by the University of Hong Kong Shenzhen Hospital eligible elderly persons can use EHCVs at a total of 21 service points in the GBA. The extension of the pilot scheme to cover all 9 GBA cities marks another milestone in policy innovation and cross-boundary medical collaboration. The pilot scheme is still in its initial operational period. We will continue to assess and monitor the operation and usage of EHCVs in the pilot medical institutions and review the effectiveness of the pilot scheme before studying further arrangements. To ensure that EHCVs can effectively continue the policy objective of supporting the implementation of PHC services, the scope and principles of the use of EHCVs under the pilot scheme are generally identical to those in Hong Kong and under the HKUSZH scheme. As at end September 2025, over 23,300 eligible elderly persons have used EHCVs to pay for outpatient healthcare services, involving 48,538 voucher claim transactions and a total claimed amount at approximately 55.99 million Hong Kong dollars. The usage of EHCVs by eligible elderly persons are set out at the annex. Since the launch of the pilot scheme, the utilization rate of EHCVs has been rising steadily. The major service types for using EHCVs are follow-up monitoring of long-term conditions, 52%, and preventive, 23%. The pilot scheme is still in its initial operation period, and some of the pilot medical institutions have only operated for a few months. We need more time for further observation. We will continue to assess and monitor the operation and usage of EHCVs before further analyzing the relevant data. To ensure the proper use of public money, the Department of Health adopts a robust monitoring mechanism for checking and auditing voucher claims. The existing monitoring mechanism, which includes measures such as routine checking, monitoring, and investigating in respect of aberrant transactions and auditing voucher claims, is also applicable to the Hong Kong U Shenzhen Hospital and the medical institutions participating in the pilot scheme. The Department of Health has established a mechanism with the Health Authority of Guangdong Province, through which the authority will provide assistance to the department when necessary to enhance its monitoring capabilities. The government will continue to maintain close contact with the Health Authority of the Guangdong Province to ensure smooth implementation of the mechanism. The Department of Health provides channels such as telephone, hotline, and email under EHVS to Hong Kong elderly persons for making inquiries or complaints on the use of EHCVs and pilot medical institutions. Based on the nature of complaints, the Department of Health will strictly deal with all suspected cases of violating the EHVS rules and take appropriate follow-up measures. In addition, the Department of Health has signed service agreements with all pilot medical institutions, which cover the relevant practices on the appropriate use of EHCVs and arrangements on financial matters and system configurations. The government has collaborated with all pilot medical institutions to finalize relevant arrangements under the service agreement. All 19 pilot medical institutions have been operating smoothly since the launch of the pilot scheme in June 2024. Currently, mainland medical institutions, including the quality of clinical services and the fees charged, are subject to strict supervision by relevant local authorities. Each pilot medical institution under the pilot scheme has set up its own inquiry and complaint hotline. Hong Kong elderly persons can make use of different channels, including telephone, hotline, or email, for any complaints, including medical incidents regarding the pilot medical institutions, or lodge complaints against the pilot medical institutions to the health authority at the provincial or municipal level if necessary. The relevant medical institution and the local regulatory authorities will follow up on the matter. The Department of Health has consolidated relevant information on the channels for reporting or lodging complaints and uploaded the details onto the EHVS website. Regarding medical records, the government has been maintaining close liaison with relevant mainland authorities to take forward the sharing of medical records to support citizens' participation in cross-boundary healthcare collaboration programs. The government has in particular launched the 2 health app functions named Cross-Boundary Health Record and Personal Folder at the Hong Kong U Shenzhen Hospital and 19 medical institutions under the pilot scheme. Under the principle of bring your own health records, the two functions will facilitate elderly persons to securely use their health records, enhancing continuity of care. And we will continue to monitor the situation to streamline the workflow and enhance user experience. Mr. Stanley, according to demographic surveys, we have 1.2 million citizens in the Fujian province. And according to the projections, we have 288,000 elderly persons aged 65 or above there. We have close to 100,000 elderly persons retiring in the mainland, and many of them in Guangdong. We have a framework for Fujian Hong Kong cooperation that has made Fujian scheme happen. I want to ask the Secretary about what is mentioned in the first part of the main reply. Why can't we expand the elderly healthcare voucher scheme to Fujian province? The consideration of the department, what are they specifically for not expanding to Fujian province the relevant arrangements? Secretary, thank you, member, for your questions. The development of the GBA is very important, and we are trying to take forward cross-boundary healthcare collaboration with elderly healthcare vouchers. We take forward the development of such in a phased manner. We are reviewing the pilot arrangements to see what we have to adjust. The principle is that we hope with the elderly healthcare voucher scheme, elderly persons living on the mainland can have an option to make use of primary healthcare services in the mainland with cross-boundary healthcare collaboration. So we will first have to conduct assessments of the effectiveness of the pilot scheme before further analyzing the relevant arrangements. Mr. Kingsley Wong, I thank the Secretary for actively responding to the aspirations of citizens, and now the arrangements have been extended to all 9 GBA cities. I appreciate the government's efforts so far. Regarding Mr. Stanley, what he mentioned about Fujian province, we have other 12 cities in the mainland. For example, in Chaozhou, there are approximately 1 million elderly persons. They have complained about not being able to use elderly healthcare vouchers in their cities. So I want to ask if the Secretary, if you have other plans to extend the arrangements to other mainland cities based on demand for such services in those cities. Thank you. Secretary, let me say this. We have careful planning in relation to the scheme. We wanted to focus on the core cities first, and then the cities in the Pearl River Delta. And now we have expanded the arrangements to all 9 GBA cities. When we select the pilot medical institutions, we consider 8 factors, including the locations of the institutions, quality of services, experience in management and operations, service scope, service capacity, fees charged, whether they have specific services that they can specialize in, and whether the institutions are familiar with the scheme. These are the factors we'll consider. We have already achieved some breakthroughs. We now allow for cross-boundary use of elderly healthcare vouchers. We have then extended arrangements to all 9 GBA cities. We have also included some flagship services that would include dental services as well as Chinese medicine services. These respond to the wishes of elderly persons. We think that we have achieved great outcomes so far, and we will conduct timely reviews having regard to the needs of different parties. Thank you. Ms. Jovi Chen. Thank you, Deputy President. Mr. Stanley LI, the chairman of the party, asked earlier to expand the arrangements to, say, Fujian province, and other member of the party asked to expand the arrangements to Chaozhou. I now want to ask about Hainan. So we have to consider policy and regional collaboration. I recently visited a mainland city, and I understand according to some state council standards, some medical zones are set up, and we have, as at August of 2025, we have 512 drugs and medical devices being piloted in these zones. So you can see Hainan is really advantageous in introducing advanced drugs and medical devices from the world. We have in 2024 the Real World Research and Application Center set up to promote collaboration between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. So would you consider this being a very good direction? We can make use of Hainan as a base for further medical collaboration. Secretary. Thank you. The members' questions are about whether we will expand the arrangements to other pilot points. Let me say again, we focus and we are actively taking forward development of cross-boundary healthcare collaboration. We aim to enhance the complementary healthcare advantages of Hong Kong and other GBA cities to benefit the public. So with the EHCV GBA pilot scheme being extended to cover all 9 GBA cities, is part of our pilot arrangements. For the sake of integration in healthcare in the GBA, we will pay close attention to the situation. We will conduct timely reviews as necessary. Once we have the review findings, we will conduct further analyses and consider different options. Thank you. Dr. So Chen Wing, we have seen a significant growth in the number of elderly persons retiring in Guangdong. We have the Guangdong scheme. We have also the GDR-CS scheme, the Guangdong Services scheme, as well as the EHCV GBA pilot scheme to provide suitable support to elderly persons to support their retirement in Guangdong. Since 2 schemes work closely to promote elderly care in Guangdong, how can we make use of the GBA pilot scheme and have it dovetail with the residential care service scheme in Guangdong to provide one-stop health care and elderly care services to meet the needs of elderly persons retiring in Guangdong and achieve synergy? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, member, for the questions. We have been actively taking forward GBA healthcare collaboration for 2 purposes. 1, we want to allow eligible elderly persons living in mainland GBA cities to have more convenience in making use of elderly healthcare vouchers so that they can take advantage of primary healthcare services in Guangdong. We had the primary healthcare blueprint in 2022, and we adopt a prevention-oriented approach towards healthcare. elderly persons may use elderly healthcare vouchers in certain medical institutions in Shenzhen and other GBA mainland cities. They can make use of such vouchers for dental services even. We do understand that elderly persons have other wishes. We will review the scheme's arrangements and see if we need to implement any enhancement measures if necessary. Thank you, Ms. Lam. So why? Last June, we have the elderly health care GBA pilot scheme. We will soon also have eHealth Plus. We will soon see cross-boundary sharing of medical records. Now, with medical records in Hong Kong, they are often written in English in hospitals. There are many jargons. If we do not have a standardized glossary for the terminology, if we rely on only the understanding of healthcare practitioners or machine translation, there may be some misunderstanding. So with the terminology of, say, the translations of conditions or the names of drugs, will there be a standardized glossary? I have seen before some mainland healthcare practitioners may not understand terminology used by Hong Kong practitioners. How can we prevent misunderstandings from happening? Secretary. Thank you. For grade 2 medical institutions in the mainland, there are national standards for the compiling of health records. They are also subject to management standards of electronic health records in the mainland. We have worked with mainland authorities, and we understand that they are stringent requirements on the compiling of health records and electronic health records. We have traditionally had healthcare practitioners compile health records in English in Hong Kong, but we can see how in the mainland they also make use of English health records because they have some Hong Kongers taking their health records with them and showing mainland practitioners of such records. We have also something that works in the other direction. So with mutual exchanges, we can have further exchanges. That's the end of questions.